Welcome back to the Marching to Madness College Basketball Podcast this afternoon. We're having another good friend of mine, Coach Shantay Legans of the Portland Pilots. Hey, he took those Pilots to a 19-15 record last season. Those 19 wins was their best number, their best total since the 2010-2011 season. Think back to Coach Legans' career. He had four seasons at Eastern Washington where he was successful. He built the program. He got them the last year into the Big Sky Conference Championship, and then they won the Big Sky tournament and made it to the NCAA. Coach, welcome back.
Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be back. Glad you're back. So I'm glad we're back on the air. Heck yeah.
It's cool. It's cool. I'm excited. And, you know, those 19 wins, like we say, they were the most in 12 seasons. As you think about that, what was the transition you took to have to build the team and have it get, to that point again?
Yeah, no, it was good because it was something, we wanted to shoot to. We were trying to win the league, and we want to fight and get to the championship of the WCC and give us a chance to get to the NCAA tournament. That's the goal in the beginning of the year. And we kept that goal. We fought as hard as we could, bringing over, Tyler Robertson, Mike Meadows, and Jack Perry with me from Eastern Washington that were familiar with me as players, and then bringing the coaches over with me. Bobby Suarez, who's now our associate head coach here at the University of Portland, and then TJ Lipple, who helps and does a lot with our defense. They also came with me, and then my other assistant stayed at Eastern Washington, became the head coach. So we had great continuity here. And we did a great job of really installing, our system. And then we also started building our culture. And it was great having three guys with us that were, that understood exactly who we were as coaches and what we wanted to do. And then bringing in the right kids. That's always the most important thing is having the players that believe in the vision that you have. And we had three of them to start with. And then the guys we brought in also fell into that vision and gained a lot of confidence under us.
Yeah. You mentioned Tyler Robertson. He was your leading scorer at 15.3 points per game. Mm-hmm. Good inside-outside weapon, and he was also your leading rebounder.
Yeah, and he probably might have led our team in assists. I mean, he had a 31-point, 11 rebounds, 11 assist game against LMU, and a huge game for us that we had to win at our place. And so, you don't see a lot of that during, league play. And so he had one of his better games. And he had a great season last year. He made second team WCC. And, I thought, he was right up there with some of the best players in our league. So, getting that honor was great and being able to do the things that he did last year. He just got to improve on some things this year, and I think he will. And his leadership is unbelievable and it's unmatched. And so we're really excited to have him back this year.
Yeah. And then Chris Austin, good off the dribble, sets himself up well as his teammates.
Yeah. And Chris is, I think we're going to probably have to redshirt Chris this year due to injury. Unbelievable young man, great kid. But, number one thing we want to look out for is health. I think he could come back and play, but I think he's also a young man that, wants to be at 100%. And he's strong enough not to, but I think that's what we're going to do with him this year. But again, unbelievable talent. And we're lucky that he wants to come back and work on his master's degree.
There you go. Very good, very good. And Moses Wood shot 44.2% from three. Able to be a threat in getting to the line and scoring as well. The game plans for him have to be that long, right?
Yeah, I mean, for us, he can post up, he can shoot threes, he can run the point for us. We bring him off of down screens, we bring him off of ball screens, he comes off staggers, he gets the elevators. So he gets everything in our offense. But then on the flip side, he's probably one of the better defenders in the country because he's 6'8" and he's long. I mean, we put him on San Francisco's point guard last year. We put him on every team's best player for the most part. And so he's an offensive and defensive guy. They call him 3-and-Ds in the NBA, but he's more of a guy that can do a lot of different things on offense. He's an unbelievable catch and shoot guy. As you can see his 3-point percentage is 44% last year. And, that's something that he's worked on. That's something that he does at a high pace, but he does so much more for us. He also averaged, I think, 7 rebounds a game. And so he was one of our top shot blockers too. So when you look at him, he's an all-around player. He doesn't look the part, but he's very strong and he does a lot of different things for us. But yeah, he's got to be really hard to scout for.
Coach, with Chris, having to take the year off, you still got five guys who you could
Yeah.
pin in as starters.
Yep.
So the creativity, the identification of what they need in the conference, and the perceptions, they're going to be there for you this
Yeah.
year.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you lose him, but you gain Jack Perry back, who tore his ACL last year in the beginning of the year. It's great to have him back. He's basically a coach on the floor. He could do anything you need him to do. We bring back Christian Scholgen, who had a 23-18 game against USF at USF. He's one of the most talented, I think, just raw talent players in the league. And so you bring back guys that understand what we're trying to do and understand how to play. And so you do lose Chris, but you gain some guys through the transfer portal, and you gained a couple freshmen that came in. So, you're looking at your depth and you're thinking, I'm looking at it like we can do some good things with this. We can get creative with it. We can play really big if we need to. We can play fast and quick if we need to. So I like where we're going with our roster. We got some things to shore up and get better. But yeah, we're not going to surprise anybody this year. I didn't think we surprised anybody last year because we played really hard. So I think teams were prepared. But this year it's more as teams coming in like, hey, they can actually beat us. This isn't the Portland of the past, couple of years. This is a different team, and every year is different. So you never know how the year is going to go. But I like where we're headed right now.
Sure. And as your team plays hard and you think about your players, how do you see your opponents adjusting to their effort?
Well, last year they tried to kick our butts down low. That was an immediate, and that's basketball. It's 1-on-1. Usually the team with the bigger players usually have more of a shot to win. And last year we started a 6'4" kid named Chika Naduka at our starting center. Now we played him out of position, but he was a physical force. I thought he should have made the all freshman team. I mean, he averaged 8 points and 6 rebounds. So that's probably tops in the league besides the scoring. And I mean, behind Chet, we don't count Chet, right? And so he's right there with everybody else. And so when you're able to say, hey, you can bring in guys with size. We brought in a kid named Joey St. Pierre that is 6'10", 265. We brought in a freshman, Bull Dang Dud, who's 6'10". The kid that didn't play a lot for us last year, Vasilia. He's 6'10". He got bigger. He grew an inch. So he's like closer to 7 feet tall now. And then you also bring in Wyatt Lowell, who's 6'10". So you bring in size that have some skill that can really shoot the ball. And then you bring in some really like strong, steady inside presence with Joey. And so you like looking at your team and saying, hey, we have size now. And we could also go back to Chika, who was playing out of position if we have to. So those are 5 legit guys that can play that spot that really I thought was our Achilles heel last year.
And then, as we have it, the transfer portal and recruiting, you had Juan Sebastian Gorosito coming in as a new player. He's an Argentine native, and it looks like there might be the opportunity for him to score. For you.
Yeah, he can play. His name's Juan Sebastian. He wants to be called Wanze. He puts his names together.
Wanze, there you go.
Yeah, Wanze. I say, yeah, okay. He's a true freshman for us, and he is a guy that can really put the ball in the basket. And he shoots it from deep. He played on his Argentina's team, so he played really well. And then we have a kid from the transfer portal, Vukashin. I can't say his last name. I always kill it, but it's Vukashin. He's coming from the University of Maine. And he can really score. He averaged about 9.5 points last year. But if you look at his split numbers in the second half, he shot 44% from 3. He shot over 50% from the 2-point range. Very physical and strong guard. So you also bring him in. So you got 2 really good guards, plus Jack Perry, that you bring into the system. And Vukashin's 6'5" and strong and athletic. So you bring those 3 guys in. It's like, okay, you have depth now at the point. Mike Meadows is healthy to start the season. So we're looking forward to seeing what he can give us, because we didn't have him pretty much for about 60% of our league games last year. And so now you have 4 or 5 guys that can play in that position. And then you got Tyler Robertson that can also play there too. So you're bringing in guys that understand what you need to do.
Tell me a little bit about Alden Applewhite, opportunities for him to contribute right away, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, again, he got his year back from Mississippi State. He is a freshman. So now we have another freshman in the fold. That is a legit 6'6", 6'6.5". I know he's 6'6" without shoes. So, they always say measuring your shoes. We don't play the game without shoes. So he's 6'7", but he does a lot of things for us. He's more of a mold of like Tyler Robertson type player. I think he's been off for about 1.5 years, 2 years due to injuries and things like that, and some setbacks, but very talented player. So we're excited about him. He's been at every practice, hasn't missed anything. Probably our most naturally gifted defender, understanding what we need him to do. But he's quiet, so we got to get him talking. But he is a very, very good, talented, and he's a talented player that's going to put us in a lot of different. He can help us with how many different ways we can play.
Last thing, Coach, obviously the NIL and transfer portal. I was just curious of your point of view on these two entities in correlation with college basketball. And then, I think back to when you played at Cal and Fresno State, what might have been your point of view then? Would it have been different, or would it have been about the same?
It's always tough. There's so many different points of views. Like, I look at it and I feel tough. I feel like when freshmen get to school, they should have to stay until their sophomore year. Now I get there's some things that maybe you have to go to a different school, but you got to give the school that recruited you, or now there's a coaching change and different things like that, but you got to give that school at least a chance. As a freshman, it's hard to play, right? It's really hard to play. And
sure.
If you just jump in that transfer portal right after your freshman year, you don't have a lot of film. You don't have a lot of different things. You don't have, you didn't learn a lot. So that's a tough situation. So I feel like, giving those guys, those young guys, that 18, 19-year-old guys, opportunities to get their feet wet, understand what they're doing. And then after their sophomore year, should be able to do whatever they want. But I feel like as a 18, 19-year-old guy, and you're coming from being the man and you go to a new school and there's a senior in front of you that's been playing his tail off, yeah, you're not going to play a bunch, especially if your team's going to be good. You can go down. I've done this 1,000 times with all our freshmen. I say, hey, let's go through every freshman in college basketball that's starting. There's only 6, Coach. Oh, well, not everyone's Zion, and the ones, okay, now you got the ones that are starting, their teams aren't very good. And so there's sometimes there's this guy, but, I feel like they should get some, they should get some time. They need to understand like what college is about, but jumping in the portal right away is tough. But I do think, give them the opportunities, like as they get older, as they're like a junior, 22, 21-year-old junior that's been through it, that, hey, I'm not going to play here. Obviously there's some things that, aren't working for me here. They got a good young player. I want the opportunity to play. Yeah, I get that 100%. The grad year is always great, but I think those first 2 years, I think you should have to be able, unless there's some circumstance that you have to leave, I think you should have to be able to sit down and see what happens. And then with the NIL stuff, I think it's great. I think it gives players the opportunity, especially if it's used in the right way, to go make money off their name, image, and likeness. And I think that's something that, you look around and you're seeing these astronomical numbers with some of these guys, which, you look at it like, whew, that's a lot. Like that's doing a bunch. Now there's, and you don't know, hey, they got this, and this, that's great. But they're giving them the opportunity to go make money off their own name, image, and likeness. I think that's great. And I don't know if it's being abused in some spots, but, I think once we start figuring everything out and we get down this road with name, image, and likeness, and also with the transfer portal, I think it's going to be great for college sports, because it's going to really give kids opportunities to figure out what they want to do. Everyone makes mistakes when they choose schools and different things. So it's giving guys opportunities there. And then being able to put a little change in your pocket when you're in college. I know when I was in college, I'd have loved some extra dollars. I don't know if I'd have been good enough to get some of those that some of these guys are getting. But just being able to have the opportunity to is really important, I think. And I think, we got to keep, fine tuning it and figuring it out and getting it to where it needs to be, where it's a well-oiled machine and everybody knows exactly, the ins and outs and the rules of it and how it all works. And so I think there's still a lot of questions, and I think there's still a lot of things that people don't know. I'm hearing when I'm recruiting, well, this kid's getting X amount of dollars. I'm like, no one's getting $1 million. I can promise you that, especially going to a WCC school, going to a school. It's just not happening, but there's a lot of hearsay. There's a lot of, adults lying. There's a lot of players saying, hey, I'm getting this. There's a lot of that stuff going on. And so once it's able to figure itself out, I think it's going to be a great tool for everybody.
Coach Shantay Legans, ladies and gentlemen, the Portland Pilots sailing the high seas of the WCC, Coach.
I appreciate that. At least we're riverboat pilots. We're doing it.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you a lot. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate you.